Welcome back to the Private Practice Lab, the space where great therapists become great entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Asia, and every episode we'll dive into the formulas, experiments, and discoveries that help you build and grow your practice with clarity and confidence. In the last episode, which was episode 1, it was all about the experiment that started it all. But today we're going to get into the foundation, the blueprint every successful private practice is built on. Before we talk marketing, scaling, or diversifying your revenue streams, we need to make sure your business has a strong structure beneath it. That means getting clear on your mission, setting up the legal and logistical basics, and laying the groundwork that supports everything else you've built. Skipping this step is one of the biggest mistakes I see therapists make, and it's the reason so many practices struggle before they even ever have a chance to really grow. In this episode, I'll walk you through the essential pieces you need in place before you open your doors, whether you're starting part-time, going full-time, or planning to grow into a group practice down the line. So let's grab your metaphorical hard hat, and we're going to step into the lab and design the blueprint for your private practice from the ground up. So let's first start with why foundations matter. When most therapists decide to start a private practice, they're usually excited about a couple of things: serving your clients, building a brand that reflects your passion, and a business that represents you and who you are as a therapist. And that's a great place to start. But here's where a lot of people get stuck. They jump straight into designing the logos, picking a practice name, building a website before they really set up the actual foundation of the business. The truth is, without this foundation, it doesn't matter how beautiful your website looks or how full your caseload gets. Cracks will eventually start to show in the foundation. Weak foundations are one of the biggest reasons why so many therapists end up feeling overwhelmed, confused, or even burned out early on in their private practice journey. Without clear systems, legal structure, or financial organization, it's easy to lose track of money, get tangled in compliance issues, or even realize too late that the business isn't built to sustain the growth that you've been working so hard for. I've seen it happen over and over again. Therapists who are incredible clinicians, but are constantly stressed because they're trying to run their business off of instinct instead of infrastructure. They're spending more time reacting than planning, and that's exhausting. A strong foundation gives you something different. It gives you stability. It means you can make confident business decisions because you understand what's supporting them. You know your numbers, you know your systems, you know your legal and ethical boundaries. That clarity brings a peace of mind, and most importantly, it really gives you room to grow. Because here's the thing, you can't scale chaos. If you want to practice that lasts, you have to start building it on solid ground. And that's what this episode is going to be all about, walking you through the key elements that make up your practice's blueprint so you can grow from a place of confidence and not confusion. Now that we've talked a little bit about why the foundation matters, let's get into the practical side, the legal and business setup basics every therapist should have in place before launching or growing your private practice. I know this part can feel really intimidating, but think of it as building the scaffolding that will hold up your business. Once it's in place, everything else, your systems, your client care, your income will have the right structure that it really needs to grow. Before we dive in, I really do need to give an important disclaimer. I'm sharing this information more for educational purposes and not as legal or financial advice. So make sure that you're consulting with an accountant, an attorney, whatever expert in the field when making these decisions about your business structure, taxes, and compliance, because these requirements can vary by state, licensure type, and business model, and also your own personal tax situation. I know a lot of us want to skip these steps because they're not as exciting as picking out a logo or setting up your EHR, but they are absolutely essential. And taking that time to get things right on the front end will save you the stress, fines, and even potential legal consequences down the road. It's worth it to start your practice on solid ground. Let's start with your business structure. You'll likely choose between a sole proprietorship, an LLC, PLLC, or an S-Corp when you're first starting off. And here's a quick breakdown. Sole proprietorship. This is the simplest setup and happens automatically when you start working for yourself without formally registering a business entity. However, it offers no liability protection, meaning your personal and business finances are legally one and the same. If anything goes wrong, like a lawsuit or a tax issue, your personal assets could be at risk. While it's the easiest way to start, it's also probably the riskiest in the long term. A LLC, or a limited liability company, this is a structure that separates your personal and business assets. It protects you from some personal liability. It's one of the most common choices for private practice owners because it's simple to manage and offers some strong legal protections. And similarly, there's a PLLC, which is a professional limited liability company, which is required in some states for licensed professionals such as therapists. So essentially, it's using your professional license instead of having an actual business license. Each state might have their own requirement for that. For instance, when I got licensed, or when I started my business in DC, I had to get a PLLC. I didn't have the option to just have a traditional LLC. And then there's S-Corps. This isn't a separate business type, but it's a tax selection you can make once your business is earning some consistent income. It allows you to pay yourself a salary, potentially save on self-employment taxes, among other things. And this is a good option to discuss with your accountant once your business becomes profitable. The structure that you select affects both liability and taxes. So make sure, again, that you're talking with a professional who understands healthcare and small business regulations before you actually file everything. Next, let's talk about registering your business, which is where EIN comes in. Your EIN, also known as an employer identification number, is issued by the IRS and acts as your business's version of a social security number. You'll use it to identify your business for tax and banking purposes. It's free to apply for online and only takes a few minutes, so don't pay anyone for this, please. Having an EIN is also crucial if you plan to take insurance or submit super bills. You never want to put your social security number on any insurance paperwork for your clients, billing forms, or W-9s. Using your EIN protects your personal information and keeps your business transactions secure and professional. Think of it this way. Your EIN is like your business's identity number, the same way that your social security number identifies you as an individual. You'll also need your EIN when you're opening a business bank account, which is another essential step. Keeping your personal and business money separate protects you legally, makes tax season cleaner, and shows that your business is being operated professionally, among many other things. You'll also want to secure professional liability insurance, even if you already have coverage through another employer. But if you have it through your employer, you'll want to make sure that the policy covers your private practice work. And if it doesn't, you'll want to make sure you have a separate policy that does. It's worth the peace of mind. There are your licensure considerations. This is especially important if you're planning to see clients via telehealth across state lines. Some states will say it doesn't matter as long as you're licensed where the client is physically located, it's fine. While other states may say, no, if you're in our state lines, you need to also be licensed here. Also, always double check the laws in every state where your clients are physically located during sessions and not just where you are licensed. And if you're provisionally licensed or you're practicing under supervision, you'll want to make sure you're meeting your state supervision requirements before taking private clients. Because again, there are some states that might dictate that LMSWs or residents in counseling or LGPCs can't have their own private practice and they need to always be practicing and billing under their supervisor. So double check those things if that's the route that you're wanting to take and you are practicing under supervision. Once you have those things squared away, you'll want to apply for your NPI number if you don't already have it, which is the National Provider Identifier. And you'll also want to set up your CAQH profile. These are really important if you ever plan to accept insurance or even if you plan on maybe accepting insurance down the line. Doing it early means it's one less headache when it's time to actually start the credentialing process. And of course, we can't forget about HIPAA compliance. This is where I think a lot of new therapists underestimate the details. You'll want to make sure that your email, phone, and data storage systems are secure, using HIPAA-compliant platforms for documentation, telehealth, and messaging. If you're unsure whether a service is compliant, look for something called a BAA or Business Associate Agreement option. That's what makes that relationship legally secure under HIPAA. Something else to keep in mind is that building your legal foundation is if you grow bigger than you'll expect, because you actually might grow bigger than you expect you will. So even if you're starting solo, putting these pieces in place early means your business is ready to grow without breaking later, and you'll thank yourself for doing it right the first time. Now that we've covered the legal and business setup, let's move into something more reflective, your mission and values. Think of your mission and values as the blueprint for how your practice lives and breathes. They guide every decision, from the policies you create to the clients you serve to the way you show up each day. And without that clarity, it's really easy to drift. You might say yes to opportunities that don't really align, or you might be building a business that looks successful on paper, but feels completely disconnected from your purpose. Your mission statement is more than a tagline. It's a reflection of who you serve, how you serve, and why. It's the heartbeat of your practice, and it should remind you why you're here, what you're here to do, especially when things get hard. For example, I help women heal from trauma through trauma-informed evidence-based therapy, or we provide accessible, culturally responsive mental health care to diverse communities. Each statement is painting a clear picture of who, how, and why. Now let's connect this to something that many of us already may be teaching our clients: values-based actions and values-based living. In acceptance and commitment therapy, values are our chosen directions, not our goals to check off the list, but guiding principles that really shape the kind of person we want to be and the life we want to build. Your business works in the same way. Your private practice is a vehicle for your values. When your practice decisions, from your policies to your pricing to your partnerships, align with what truly matters to you, your business starts to feel authentic and sustainable. When they don't, that's often when burnout, resentment, or self-doubt start to show up. ACT teaches us that values clarify behavior even in moments of discomfort. So when you're faced with hard business decisions like setting boundaries with clients, or raising rates, or turning down opportunities that don't align, Your values become your compass. They help you act with integrity instead of fear. So here's an example. If one of your core values is accessibility, you might create a sliding scale or group offerings to make therapy more attainable. If your value is balance, maybe that means limiting your caseload or taking Fridays off for rest. If your value is growth, you might invest in supervision, consultation, or business coaching to continue expanding your skills. These values will shape every layer of your business, your policies, your marketing, your client experience, and eventually your team culture if and when you grow. So I want you to think about this week. If you don't already have a mission statement or you don't already have your guiding core values for your practice, write a draft mission statement and identify just 3 core values that will guide your practice. Ask yourself, what do I want my practice to stand for? What kind of impact do I want to have? How do I want to feel in the work that I do every day? Remember, your values are the experiment that you're committing to daily. You might not always get it perfect, but as long as you're moving in the direction of what matters, you're on the right track. Now that you've laid the groundwork with your legal setup, business structure, and your mission and values, it's time to start building the basic structure of your practice. This is the part where your ideas start turning into systems, the kind that keep your practice running smoothly, ethically, and sustainably. Think of this like setting up your lab before an experiment. You need your equipment calibrated and ready before you can measure meaningful results. Let's start with some systems. From day one, you want to put tools in place to help you stay organized and compliant. Choose an electronic health record or an EHR that fits your workflow and makes sense for your size and style of your practice. There are many out there on the market at this point, but some good options or pretty common options for therapists are Simple Practice, Therapy Notes, Sessions Health, and Theranest. And yes, HIPAA compliant software is going to come at a cost, but it's absolutely worth the investment. You're not just paying for convenience, you're paying for security, compliance, peace of mind. Setting up compliance systems from the beginning protects the client confidentiality and your professional license, and it will save you from many headaches down the line. When it comes to telehealth, explore your options. Many EHRs have built-in telehealth features that will allow the client to book the session, receive the reminders, and join the video calls directly from the same platform. And it's a simple, streamlined option that keeps everything in one place. Some EHRs even integrate with third-party HIPAA-compliant video systems. For example, I use IntakeQ, which automatically generates a Google Meet link for each appointment. It's fully HIPAA compliant, requires no extra setup, and helps everything run seamlessly for both me and the clients. If you prefer to use a separate telehealth platform, that's completely fine too. Just make sure that it's HIPAA compliant and offers a BAA, the Business Associate Agreement. Options like Zoom for Healthcare, DoxyMe, Google Meet Healthcare version, they're all solid choices. The key is to choose what fits your workflow and client experience the best. Then let's talk about finances. Setting up an accounting software like QuickBooks, Wave, FreshBooks, they're great options for small practices. They really help you track income, expenses, and mileage and make tax time a lot smoother, especially if you're not quite ready to hire an accountant or hire someone to do those things for you just yet. Open a business bank account and never mix your personal and business funds because keeping them separate is not just the best practice, but it's essential for liability protection and financial clarity. If you are accepting payments directly, use systems that integrate with your EHR and are healthcare friendly, like Stripe for Healthcare, Square, or Ivy Pay, which allows clients to use HSA and FSA cards. Now let's look at your policies and procedures. Before seeing clients, having your informed consent, cancellation policy, and telehealth agreement ready. These documents really set the tone for professionalism and boundaries in your practice. Your informed consent should explain confidentiality limits, communication expectations, and your approach to care. Your cancellation policy protects your time and helps clients understand what to expect when rescheduling or missing appointments. If you don't want to create all these forms from scratch, I've created a collection of customizable policy and documentation templates that you can purchase and adapt to your practice. They're designed specifically for therapists in private practice, clear, compliant, and ready to use, and I'll include the link in my show notes. You'll also want to create documentation templates for your clinical work, like intake forms, progress notes, termination summaries. These don't have to be fancy at first. The goal is to start with something consistent and refine it as you go. Then we'll talk about brand identity basics. This is where your practice starts to show up publicly, how people see and connect with your work. So you'll want to start simple. Choose a business name that reflects your mission and your clinical focus. Purchase a domain name even if your full website isn't ready to be live yet. Set up a professional email address that can be tied to your domain, something like hello@yourpracticename.com. And then even if you're just starting off, creating a simple one-page website that lists your services, contact info, and a short description of who you help is a perfect way to get started without having to have a whole elaborate website. And don't worry, we're going to dive deeper into branding, marketing, and building your online presence in a future episode. This part is just an overview and really giving you a starting point to help you get your foundation in place. Here's what I want you to remember. Don't wait until you feel ready. Start with a basic structure and refine it as you grow. Every private practice starts as a work in progress. What matters is that you take the first step, you build intentionally, and you create systems that support you and your clients from day one. Your practice doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to begin. Like any experiment, you'll learn, adjust, and keep improving over time. So, you've just built the first layer of your private practice foundation. In this episode, we walk through the essential pieces that hold everything together: your legal setup, your mission and values, the systems that keep your practice organized and compliant. These systems might not feel glamorous, but they're the bedrock that make everything else possible: the growth, freedom, sustainability, and peace of mind. Remember, you don't have to do it all at once. Every thriving private practice starts with one intentional step at a time. So here's your action step for the week. Choose one foundational piece and complete it. Not just look at it, but complete it. Whether that's registering your business, writing your mission statement, setting up your EHR, or even just creating your informed consent, pick one and actually follow through with it. The goal is progress and not perfection, because the foundation you build now will support everything else that comes next. And speaking of next, in the next episode, we're going to mix the formula for finding your niche and defining who your practice is really for. We'll talk about how to position yourself in the market, identify your ideal client, and make your practice stand out for all the right reasons. So stay tuned. This is where things start to get exciting. Thanks for joining me in the lab today. If today's experiment helped, share it with another therapist and leave a review. And if you're looking for more tools and templates to help you build your practice, make sure to visit our website and keep testing what works.